G'day, Year 11. Today I'm going to have a look at trying to find cases using a database. And look, before we started, I set up a couple of databases that we can use: the Supreme Court Library of Queensland database and the Australasian Legal Information Institute, AustLI, AUSTLI.edu.au. A little test, and I thought the results were a little bit better from AustLI. So I'm going to stick with that. So when we just go to the website, austli.edu.au, we then have a bunch of decisions that we've got to make. Now, generally for legal studies, it's always going to be better for us in Queensland if we find Queensland cases, particularly when criminal law is different from state to state, and it might be the same for other areas as well. So let's start by looking at the Queensland cases that we can do. Now, there's other things we can look at. We can look at our legislation here if we're looking for that. But in this case, we're looking for cases. So what we can do is unclick the cases we want. Now, I'm going to try and find something that suits negligence. And a lot of you are doing motor vehicles, right, around that section 48, 47, 48, 49, which says that if you knowingly get in the car with a driver who's under the influence of alcohol, you have made a contribution to the situation and your damages will be reduced by a level of contributory negligence of at least 25%. So we're probably interested in maybe the Supreme Court cases and the District Court. I think it's less likely to be anything in the Magistrates Court. You could have a look, but because I think they're going to be cases where if you're looking at a motor vehicle action and damages, they're probably going to have the level of funds being sought to put them into the District Court or the Supreme Court. So now we've got to see, right, what we want to search. And as you can see, I've been playing around with different search terms. When you put an "and," it means it'll search in most search engines. In most search engines, it'll search independently. So it'll find something with all three terms. So we're interested in contributory negligence, motor vehicles, and you can see, like, we could put cars, but generally in the case they're referred to as motor vehicles. So that's going to help us. And we're interested in section 48 of the relevant act. So let's have a go and see how, once we've put that together, you can see there's a little bit of trial and error. You're going to have to do the same. A lot of this searching through databases is going to take some patience and some trial and error. So let's search and see if we get some cases. Now, interestingly, it takes us straight away to the section of the Civil Liability Act that's related to it. Now, you've probably got this somewhere else. I've just clicked on your show, but it actually gives you find that section there. That's not what we're looking for this time. So let's have a look at a few of these cases. Now, as it happens, I know some of you have found this case, and I've sent this case to a few of you. This deals with this absolutely. These two parties, Hawira and Connolly, were drinking together over an afternoon. One of them jumped in the car with the other, knowing that the driver was under the influence. But let's have a look at this case here as the first one that comes up. It's in the Supreme Court. These are the parties here. It's a trial. That's generally a good thing. It's not just a procedural matter. 2013, so it's reasonably recent. Now, we get a few catchwords: negligence, contributory negligence. There's a level of impairment there. So let's have a look and see. Let's have a look. Oh, and this is the important part. Right? Where both plaintiff and first defendant were intoxicated at the time of the accident. That is exactly what we are looking for. So now let's see down. We've got a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $119,324.50. So let's see if we can start to have a look through. There's some ideas of the facts. Happened in 2007. Contributory negligence is highlighted again. It talks about some of the incident. So one person had been working. There's drinking. It discusses some elements of negligence and the standard of care. Brings in this issue of contributory negligence here. Starts to get 47. So we're starting to get through this. This is the area of the Act that we're interested in. Let's see if we can find some let's find some more facts. Notice here that they've gone to this idea of voluntary assumption of risk. That should be something we're a bit familiar with in negligence. So if someone's put themselves in a risky situation, they've known about that. So here we go. We're now saying after the accident, both the plaintiff are both taken to the hospital. So there was discussion of the intoxication of the two people. So that's exactly what we're looking for. The first defendant they're looking at how intoxicated they were, the results, so that's good. We're looking to see if we can find some. Here we go. So on the basis of the finding above, Section 47 of the Civilly Liable Act is a complaint because the plaintiff was intoxicated at the time of the breach of duty, and the contributing negligence is alleged. So it follows that contributing negligence is presumed to be at least 25%. So we know that's the presumption if you, as a passenger, get into the car knowing that the driver is drunk, that's the level of contribution there. So it's going through this. So these facts are exactly what we're looking for in a case. Right? So it will be interesting to read through that more detail, but it gives an idea of the situation, the circumstances. Now you can see you've got to skim through and try and find the information that you're looking for in a fairly quick manner, because there'll be a lot of cases that wouldn't be of use to you. Now, what I'm interested in doing is then seeing, okay, I haven't done this. So now we're getting to this. Each of these paragraphs are labelled. Now we're getting to the idea where they rely on some other cases. And I'm interested to see if we can find another case just based on what we might call the bibliographical chain, right? The references that we go. So this case, Joseph v. Berryman, was a High Court case, so that's applicable to Queensland because High Court cases have a bearing on those cases that happen in state courts. The High Court considered the application of the Motor Vehicles Act in New South Wales. If an injured person was a voluntary passenger in a motor vehicle and was aware or ought to have been aware that the driver's ability to drive was impaired. So it's a very similar situation. So let's just see. Let's go to number 3. So the third case here is this High Court in Australia case. So let's see if we can find 2 useful cases just by following that little chain. And you can see, look, I don't know all the High Court judges, but Justice Kirby was one that was quite a famous High Court judge. I don't think he's an active judge anymore. So let's have a look at this. This was the case. So the appeal was allowed. Okay. So, passenger in a defective vehicle with an intoxicated and inexperienced driver, where the reasonable person would have foreseen a risk of injury. Facts and circumstances relevant to contributing negligence. So once again, we've now found another case that really suits what we're looking for. And for those people who were thinking about, whether there should be a high level of contributory negligence for a person who gets in a car knowing the driver's under the influence, it looks like this will be a good case to look at, because it seems to focus on this idea whether the passenger was aware or ought to have been aware that the driver's ability was affected by alcohol. So we've just quickly found two cases that are quite useful just by using that search phrase. So I just want to give that as an example. If you're struggling to find cases, that's a reasonable way to do it. The hard thing is getting a summary, going through, and finding the facts and details from the case that support the legal issue you're talking about, and where the change you want to make will mean that you get a fairer outcome.